You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 254 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me as always,
Roger Phipps, and on this week's show, spring game excitement, pro day prognosis, volleyball is victorious, softball checks in, the Tijuana Flats hot take of the week, news and notes, and your questions on Ask Knightline.
Alrighty, well, let's get to it. Ask Knightline is up first. Ask Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. Alrighty, thank you for your questions for Ask Knightline. The first one comes from KnightRN95 at KnightRN95. Should we be concerned about our punting game? It didn't seem we were getting much yardage when we had to punt. Wow. Yeah. There was I think he hit one really good one.
58 yards.
Something like that, yeah. I thought it was 58 or 60 or whatever. Yeah, so he hit one good one. The rest of them were horrible. But here's the thing. They weren't punting live. He was just like literally holding the ball and, you know, there was nobody coming at him. There's a little bit less adrenaline when that happens. So maybe that's it. I don't remember it being horrible last year. It's the same punter. I don't remember it being horrible. It wasn't Mac Loudermilk from a couple of years ago, but it wasn't horrible.
No, I think he was averaging something like 44 yards per punt last year. So you're right. It wasn't terrible at all. The kicking game as a whole was a big question mark, and I think it still is. But as far as the punting game last year, it wasn't bad. So,
well, we've got a guy coming in the summer A session that is a transfer, so he's signing as a walk-on, the guy from New Smyrna Beach. I don't know his name right now, but he's a punter and a kicker. So he was supposedly the number 3 kicker-punter transfer ranked. So we shall see what happens with that. He can punt and kick. So,
well, I mean, punting, as we all know, is an important part of the game, especially if we have those 3 and outs. I mean, we saw a few of those last year. So flipping the field and being able to put the opposing offense on their heels is certainly something that we're going to need to do.
Well, hopefully we won't need the punter. You know what I'm saying?
That would be the goal.
I mean, that would be the best thing, is if we don't need the punter at all. Mac Loudermilk, when he was here for a couple of years, he didn't see the field too much.
No.
I mean, so I don't know.
But when he did, he made a name for himself. The golf swing, the home run swing,
course,
all
yeah.
that fun stuff. He was a character.
Yeah, but, I mean, I loved all that, but I would also like to see somebody that punts the ball as good as he did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what really matters. So we'll see about that. I mean, it is what it is at this moment. But hopefully our team will be high-powered enough that we won't have to punt very often. I know that that's probably wishful thinking, but it is what it is. All right, the next one from @LonelyBUCF. Mario is his name. What's y'all's opinion of the Twitter handles on the back of the jersey? Should we do it for one game this year? That's not going to happen, I don't think, for a game, for an actual sanctioned game. This was a spring game. This was not an NCAA activity technically. This was a practice technically. They could do whatever they wanted. I think it's a one-off thing. I don't think that the NCAA rules allow for that. Let's hear what I almost said. Let's hear what the other guy.
I know. I saw it coming.
I'm going to say let's hear what Gus Malzahn had to say about it.
We've been saying, we think the future of college football's here, and if you really look at it, we've got 322,000 living alumni, and the average age is 36. They're all on social media. We got 72,000 students all on social media, and this is the new age, personal branding, and we're going to embrace it within the NCAA rules, and that's who we are, and that's who we're going to be. It was just an idea within our staff. We've got a very creative staff that we're all on board. When we say that we believe the future of college football is here, that's just the first step, and just trying to look ahead, and I think it was a good thing. And we're going to be within the NCAA rules and everything we do, but we're going to be prepared. And like I said, you look at 322,000 living alumni, and the average age is 36, 72,000, and they're all on Twitter. Some of these big schools, their average age is their alumni is 65, and they're on Facebook. Okay, so we got a big advantage. Okay, my mom's on Facebook. She checked it last night. Matter of fact.
All right. Well, yeah. So it was all good fun, funny. It's true, though, what he said. He was asked multiple times about that during his press conference in different ways. So that's why I put all of his answers there with the little sounder thing in between. It was just a one-off, kind of a fun thing, I think. I don't think that the NCAA would allow that at all for sanctioned games. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about it. The reaction was weird on Facebook and Twitter, on all of it. Some people loved it, some people hated it. And I posted, I think, on UCF's Facebook page earlier today, I said something like, those of you that don't like this don't understand it. And you're boomers, number one, because you don't understand it. I said the name, image, and likeness is going to change college football a lot, and you better get used to it because it's not going to go anywhere. So it's going to be a big deal. The players loved it from what they said in their press conferences. I didn't pull any of those clips because I had other stuff that I wanted to cover with them. But they enjoyed it. Obviously, it gets their name out there. It gets their Twitter handle out there. I'm sure a lot of them got a bunch of more followers than they had before. I thought it was a good deal.
I'm with you on all of that. I think it was smart. A lot of the national media was commenting on it and mentioning how smart
Sports
it was.
Illustrated, everybody was talking about it.
Exactly. And with the name, image, and likeness, I think it's not only smart for the players, but it's also smart for the recruits because we're getting ahead of this. This is coming. They're aware of it. And we're saying we're supporting it, and here's a unique way that we can do it. As to your point on the NCAA, I agree you're 100% correct on that. The NCAA does not allow for this type of thing to be done during the season. However, remember, Florida was one of the first states to adopt some of the name, image, and likeness.
To make legislation.
Exactly.
It, yeah.
So, it's Florida getting ahead of it. It's UCF getting ahead of it. I think it was strategically done.
It's Gus getting ahead of it.
Exactly.
And Gus is a very, very smart guy. If you don't know anything about him, let me tell you, he's a smart guy. All those billboards, all kinds of stuff is his stuff. When he came in here, he said, I want to take, part in the marketing and everything else, and he's doing it. He's a really smart guy, and obviously he got the attention of everybody with this, with all the national media. You want attention, then you do something that's a little crazy. You do something that's a little bit different. The billboards, the names on the back of jerseys like this, that's exactly what it's about. They're talking about UCF now. Doesn't matter if it was a spring game or whatever. That's what they were talking about. They were talking about UCF football, period.
Yeah, and if we can stay in the forefront of this, especially with this large discussion looming for name, image, and likeness, why not? And why not say, hey, we're going to support you, recruit, when you come on board and you start building your brand? We've already started doing that. UCF as a whole and the branding department has already been working with student athletes on their online presence for the past couple of years. So this is just an opportunity for us to get ahead of it. And we're going to back you, and we're going to make you some money if we can do it, because for darn sure the Alabamas of the world, all these other big brands are going to put their names and brands behind it.
And you've already seen a couple of other teams do this same thing. As of today, they had them on their jerseys. So I don't know if they thought about it first, but I doubt it. I believe it was Temple that had that on their jerseys as well. So maybe they saw UCF do it yesterday, and then today put a picture up on Twitter of their jerseys with the same information on it. So the name and image likeness thing is going to be weird. It's going to change college football. I'm for parts of it, and I'm not for parts of it. And we've discussed this at length before. I was not a big fan of it at all when it first came out, that it was, even a suggestion of happening. I've come around a little bit, but we'll talk about it in the future, I'm sure. So I'm not going to get into it right now. Next question is from Brian W. Peterson, at Brian W. Peterson. Who do you think will have a better 2021 season statistically, Gabriel or Milton? Ooh. If you saw, yesterday I posted a picture on Twitter of screen cap of my TV, and I was watching the Florida State spring game, and Mackenzie Milton was on the field for the very first time since that injury as playing in a football game yesterday. So after our spring game, ours was over at 3 o'clock, something like that. Theirs was on at 5. So and it was on ESPN Plus or the ACC network. So I was able to see that. I was glad that I was able to see that. Obviously, it's a little bittersweet seeing him, in a Seminoles uniform. But I was just happy for him. I'm happy for him, his family, everybody that's been through this whole thing with him, because it was taxing on everybody's mind, even all of us. It was taxing to see him go through that stuff. So I'm extremely happy that he is back on the field. Yes, I had a tear in my eye when he ran out onto the field, and he threw great. He threw couple passes that weren't perfect, and then he threw 2 that wound up as a touchdown. And I kind of turned it off after that because I just wanted to see that part. I was not interested in watching the entire spring game for FSU. Back to the question. I think probably Gabriel will have a better season statistically, because I'm not sure, honestly, if Milton is the starter. I know Gabriel's the starter. I'm not sure that Milton is. 2 quarterbacks were in before him in this game. Not saying that that's not going to change in the fall. Even if it does change and he winds up being the starter, I still think Dylan Gabriel is going to have a better year statistically, especially throwing, because I still think that Dylan Gabriel has a better arm. Believe it or not. I do. And I think that he is set up in a situation here where he knows everybody. He has been with the team for, 2-3 years now. And it just, I think he has a better environment to do it in. Milton is at Florida State, obviously, with Norvell. Norvell's going to run the ball a lot more, I believe, than we do. So I'm not sure, what their quarterback situation is going to be. If he's going to be the starter, if he's going to be completely healthy. Didn't really see him take off and run. Did see him go around the edge a couple times just after he threw the ball, just going through the paces. Did not look with his feet 100% at all. So we'll see. But I'm just going to, if I had to guess right now, I'm going to say Gabriel.
Well, I'm with you on that for a little different reason, though. I think that Florida State, and I did watch a little bit of their spring game on TV, and I can tell you this, their O-line still looks atrocious, and it has been a problem for them the past 3 or 4 years.
That too.
Yeah, I just don't, no matter what Mackenzie Milton does, if his O-line can't hold back pass rushers or their plays are going to break down. And like you said, I was happy to see him move around in the pocket. He did, he wasn't the old Milton, but again, the other part about this...
His arm was. That was the one part about it that was.
Yeah, his arm was.
Touchdown pass that he threw right in the first series or the second series that he came in, I think it was the first series, was beautiful. I mean, it was just a beautiful, beautiful pass. Perfect in the perfect spot, 2 in a row, actually, to make that touchdown.
Yeah, the big thing too with Mackenzie Milton is he hasn't been playing live football for a while. So even if he gets back in, listen... it takes a while to get into the groove of things when you're coming back from a season, but now you're talking about someone who's been out in a new system, and he's going to be back for the first time in live football for 2.5 years? So
since 2018.
Yeah, it's going to take some time for him to get used to it. So I agree with you, Andrew, for a number of reasons, most of which, though, I think no matter what quarterback is back there, they're going to have a problem with that O-line. And if you don't have an O-line, it makes it real tough to be successful.
All right, well, that does it for the Ask Knightline questions. Thank you very much for your questions. We're going to get into talking about the spring break. Well, they're on spring break now. The spring game. Yeah, I'm tired, man. It's been a long weekend. Lots of stuff going on all week. So, let's start with Gus Malzahn and what he had to say immediately after the spring game.
First of all, I just told the guys, we called them up. I really am proud of our team. An outstanding spring. We've challenged them. We put it on them. Physically, mentally, and we practiced 4 days a week for 4 straight weeks, and we got after it. And today it was great. The guys were flying around, got a chance to get everybody to play. I think they played hard. I think they played for each other. We didn't have any serious injuries. That's something you always kind of stress about, as far as spring game, and it was great to be in front of our crowd. I really appreciate our fans that came out. I appreciate our band. They were outstanding. It was just a really good atmosphere and a really good overall day for us.
All right. Well, first of all, he said we called them up, so that's interesting. I don't know what that means. They made a conference call with all of them, or I just don't understand what that means. I would have loved to have been there. And what do you mean you called them up? So whatever. But he seems to be happy. He didn't go into too much detail there, but there are lots of more questions where he does. That was just his opening statement. So I've got lots of clips here to talk about. Spring games are a little bit weird, and I was telling you, I'm going to tell you the same kind of thing that we talked about before we started, Roger. Spring game for me is more of a, it's more of a social event, honestly, than a spring game. It's hard to tell sometimes what's going on in a spring game. You're there hanging out with your buddies that you haven't seen for a while, maybe. You're drinking, you're catching up, telling stories. You wait in a long line for a beer and something happens and you miss it. You're not worried, as much about, I can only go get a beer between quarters or whatever, but at halftime. So I didn't see everything. And I admittedly left a little bit early. I left after probably half of the third quarter. I had stuff to do. But I did see, certain things, and I saw certain people that I wanted to as far as on the field. So, I feel like I can talk about it. I'm not going to know everything that happened, obviously, every little thing, because that wasn't really horribly what I was focused on. I was just focused on having a good time. Like I said, it had been a long week, and I was just ready to drink a couple of beers, see some of my buddies, and, hang out at a football game. Mm-hmm. And, the mask Nazis were not out hardcore yesterday, which was really nice. So I'll say that. Thank you, UCF, for not being crazy about it and making everybody feel uncomfortable like they have in the past. That was nice. Although I did have a beer in my hand the entire time when I was drinking it. So I didn't have to wear the mask anyway, unless they put a little straw hole through it. But anyway, hung out with Travis Dever, saw some other guys that I, wanted to see for a while. So, we hung out in the cabana and watched some football. Good crowd, I will say. I was happy with that. I don't know if they ever announced any number or anything. I didn't get any press, email or anything like that with any statistical information, which I would have liked to. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that the team internally kept stats, but they weren't released. I would have loved to have seen that, by the way, just to see how people did. And, it's not really normal that they would give those out after a spring game. But you definitely saw some cool stuff. First of all, the double pass. That was awesome. Here is Gus Malzahn talking about that.
That was just kind of a deal between him and O'Keefe. We had a base play, and they have a read on it, and they're really good together and on the same page. And that was really a wow play, standing behind watching it. All
right, here's what Dylan Gabriel had to say about catching a pass.
Definitely new to me, but I mean, it was fun. I would enjoy catching the ball a couple times, and I had a fun time.
And then here's what Ryan O'Keefe had to say about it.
I ended up playing quarterback my junior and senior year, and when Gus had asked me, I said, yeah. I knew and he had in mind that he was going to do a double pass, so it was exciting to show that I can, stick out my arm, maybe get some more plays like that in soon. Nah, it was just like, we're going to switch. Bro, you're going to do what I do every day, and then I'm going to do what you do every day. It was just something fun to do. It was a twist.
All right, so a twist for sure. And I hope that Gus Malzahn throws little twists like this in there because it was exciting. Even the defense had no idea, really what was going on, I don't think. And it worked.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this entire spring game had twists in it. I mean, we saw Kalia Davis with the ball in his hand on offense. And, what my takeaway from all of this was that Gus wanted to have a little fun, and I think he was trying to prove a point because one of the things that you'd heard the last couple of years that he was at Auburn was that he had kind of gone vanilla on his offense. And I think what he did a good job of was showing and demonstrating that everybody's going to get a piece of this and that he's going to mix it up to keep the defenses guessing. He used every single part of the field. We've been used to just seeing a long bomb or the run game. The middle of the field was a little neglected. The tight ends were involved. They weren't just basically a fullback in the backfield. So for me, it was a way for him to validate that he's going to get creative. And for me, a creative Gus Malzahn is going to be a successful UCF head coach.
Absolutely. Well, you saw him do a lot of different things. Dylan Gabriel under center was another thing that was pretty odd. We've seen that maybe once or twice in like a goal line situation or something. That would be the only time that he's ever been under center while he's been at UCF. So you saw that a couple of times. Yeah, you saw the Wildcat. Here's what Gus Malzahn had to say on the Wildcat.
We're going to run the Wildcat. We're just looking at what we have and all that, and he played running back in high school, and he is there's a good chance you could see him next year run a Wildcat. I'll just tell you that.
And here's what Kalia Davis had to say about his run.
Coach them knew about my background as being, running back in Little League. I played as a running back in high school too, so Coach just seen I was athletic, and he wanted to see if I can catch a snap and run it. So, yeah, it was a cool play. Like, the hole wasn't really there, but, my athleticism kicked in, and I found the hole, got the first down. It was cool, though. I wanted a touchdown for sure, but, first down, it helped us score. So I was running my feet on contact, so hopefully they don't give up on me. They give me another chance. I'll probably score.
All right. Well, it was fun for him, and I bet that you'll see that. I mean, why wouldn't you see that?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I think every coach that's been here since George O'Leary, it's weird saying that because this is the third one, has done something like that with somebody. So, it is what it is. Interesting. I will be interested to hear what they actually call it, Somebody said, I think UCF posted it was the Wild Rhino.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've gone bone. We've had I don't remember what Frost called his, but the last version of this was going bone. So the White Rhino will be interesting, or Wild Rhino, excuse me.
Yeah, White Rhino, whatever. Yeah. So I liked it. I thought it was cool. Anything that you can do to throw a wrench in the entire thing, anything that you can do a little bit different. Than what has been done before and what's been done, recently or whatever. Anything you can do to catch the offense off guard or defense off guard. I love any Wildcat stuff. I think it's awesome. It gets a little bit old when we do it every. We
2014 or 15, it was like that where we kept running it.
Yeah, because I think we didn't have a quarterback that was worth a darn at the time. So we ran it with
I think it was Nick Patty.
Well, we ran it with Nick Patty a lot. But when Holman went down, I believe, at one point we ran it like a lot.
Yeah.
I think that was the time that we ran it all the time. So I don't think it's a good thing all the time like that, but once in a while.
Well,
and then the double pass.
Yeah.
Stuff like that really, really catches people off guard. I mean, I know we talked about it already, but bringing it back up again.
You had that in reverses. You saw that, a lot of screens. Counters, you had Dylan Gabriel rolling out. I mean, there were all kinds of different wrinkles in this offense. And Coach had said that he only has 60% of his playbook in. So if this is 60% of his playbook, this is 150% more variety than we've seen the last 2 years. So, and it's by design. But again, the offense still went quick. I mean, it wasn't as quick as the previous regime, but it still went pretty quick. And it's just good to see some versatility out of Dylan and understanding, being able to throw on the run. I saw some different arm angles from him when he was throwing to the running back on some options that he had. It showed so much more of who Dylan could be, and Coach has been talking about it. He said, hey, he's very versatile. He can move around in the pocket. And we just hadn't seen that. So, being able to see that, I think, is phenomenal to keep defenses guessing.
All right, here's what Gus had to say about Dylan Gabriel. It's pretty short.
Dylan, he's had an outstanding spring. His accuracy really stands out to me. Got great command of the offense. He is really special good when things break down with his decision-making, his accuracy, and he really had an outstanding spring.
All right, well, I can't wait for we have to wait 3 more months or whatever for actual football to happen, but I can't wait. This is a hard part of the year, this waiting until football starts for me.
Well, for me, I mean, honestly, it is a hard wait. Like you said, 3.5 months, but at the same time, it gave me a lot of confidence. I wasn't sure what I was going to see at the spring game out of the team and whether they were going to take these new concepts that they hadn't played before and be able to execute on them consistently. And it looked like there wasn't a whole lot of mistakes from what I've heard and read and everything else. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think it was very, very successful. And the other part was I was actually pretty impressed with Mikey Keene. I think he's pushing quadri. It was good to see him. He's clearly athletic. He's definitely a dual threat quarterback. He ran. I think there were a few times where he could have thrown the ball where he chose to run it. But at the same time, I was very, very, very happy with him. There was that one run where he bounced off the defender when he was running around the right side. I was like, wow, that's a man play right there.
Yeah.
So
no, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
He's probably the most real deal out of the rest of these quarterbacks, besides Dylan, obviously. He's definitely the real deal. He's young though too. You have to remember he's like 17 years old. He's not even 18. He's way early out of high school. I think in one of the press conferences last week, somebody said he should be going to prom or something, and he's playing college football. So you have to remember that with him. He's going to grow a little bit. He's going to bulk up, obviously, and he's going to figure college football out a little bit better because it's hard to go from high school football to college football. The speed just is a lot different. So he did look good, though. The arm looked really good. He looked good with his feet. Quadri Jones, on the other hand, not so good. So if I had to choose from just the little stuff that I saw, who would be the backup quarterback, no question, it would. From what I saw yesterday, from the 3 or 2.5 quarters that I watched, Mikey Keene would be the guy.
Yeah,
I think, question.
Yeah, and I think he will be the guy eventually, right? I mean, we've got a few other recruits that are coming in too, but he seems like, and remember, he comes from a championship, high school championship pedigree, right? The school that he came from was one of the largest. He's played, he hasn't just played the local schools. He's played nationally with that particular high school. They play the best schools all around the country. He's got that pressure before. He's seen the best athletes that he's been playing against, and he's won championships. So taking that pedigree and applying it here, I think it really just goes to show he's got the tools to be a really successful quarterback, and he wasn't afraid or taken aback by the moment. He wasn't hesitant. He played his game. He put his shoulder into the guy and just kept trucking. So I was very, very impressed with him. I do think he will end up being our second on the depth chart eventually.
Yeah, his feet are something that is special about him as well. We always talked about Mackenzie's feet being special and what he could do with his legs. I believe that Mikey Keene is of that same
ilk.
Whatever, yeah. but he's in that same vein, I guess you would say. And I don't, honestly, I do remember Quadri throwing the ball a couple times, and it didn't look good at all. And he was only in there in the very start of the game. He came out as the scout team quarterback, or the second side quarterback, the white team, I think it was, and did not look good. And he was replaced very quickly by Mikey Keene. I do not remember seeing Parker Navarro, to be honest with you. He may have been out there, but he didn't do anything honestly special that made me remember seeing him.
He actually came out in the fourth quarter, so you may have missed him.
I missed it then. Yeah.
They got every single quarterback who's on the roster some reps, even
I knew that.
a preferred walk-on. So he did have some reps out there. He looked okay.
He wasn't a preferred walk-on. He was a scholarship player.
No, not him. I said guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said Navarro was.
No.
I think he's far beyond or far behind Mikey Keene, though. Just in talent, as far as look at their tape.
Yeah.
They're from the same area, but their tape is very different. And Mikey Keene's tape is way, way, way better than Navarro. Now, Navarro has an arm. I will say that, but the feet, nothing like Mikey Keene. All right, let's hear what Gus Malzahn had to say about the rest of the quarterbacks.
I thought they did a good job. I think all of them, got in there and did some good things, moved the ball, So I think, and, we let our 3 guys go live other than Dylan, or all 4. And that's something we did all spring. We wanted to evaluate the guys. We know what we have with Dylan, but it was really good to see those other guys just be able to play football. And it was good for our defense to have those guys live, too.
All righty. Well, I do remember a snap going out of Quadri Jones' hands and him running back to try to jump on it. That was ugly. And then there was another time where he got sacked, and it was really ugly. Didn't know where to go. So, okay. Tight ends. We saw the tight ends being used. You spoke about it a little bit earlier. One of the very first plays of the whole game that I remember was Jake Hescock going across the middle and, catching the ball, a really nice little short throw just to get things started. Probably was the first, maybe the first throw, to be honest with you. But he looked good. I don't know about the others, to be honest with you, just because I wasn't watching that closely. I do remember seeing Jake Hescock, though, do some really good stuff.
Charlie Browder is another one that has we've heard his name all spring. He did get some good plays in this game, but obviously Jake is the number 1 tight end for a reason. He had some decent hands and was starting to be used towards the end of last year, and I think he's going to be used even more this year. You saw the tight ends split out before. They were only used primarily for bunch sets or for blocking. Every once in a while, if we were in a goal line situation, they'd slip Jake out into the flat and they'd try to dump off a pass to him. But other than that, they really weren't used in the passing game. wholly different animal this year, and they were heavily involved in the tight ends were heavily involved in the screen game. So not just your traditional bubble screens that you normally would see. There was a little bit more. The blocking schemes were actually a lot more intricate than those bubble screens. And you saw the tight ends take care of business on the end. So if they can seal the ends for Dylan or for whoever's got the ball, that's going to be a big advantage for us, because if they're split out and they're catching the ball through the middle, the defenders are going to have to think twice. Is this a screen where I'm going to have to close towards the boundary, or is this something where I'm going to have to drop back and try to cover a 6'7" tight end who can catch? So it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, they're going to be a big part of this offense, and it's a big target to throw at, especially, in situations where Dylan needs to throw it to somebody to get even short yardage. So, and then the running backs were catching balls as well out of the backfield and really running. I mean, there were some really good plays by running backs. Bentavious obviously had some at the very beginning that looked really good, and then it was Harvey.
It was really Harvey time in the spring game, for sure.
Yeah, and then little Johnny as well was really, really. I think it was a 70-yard pass catch that he had out of the backfield that was pretty incredible. He's definitely got some wheels. We haven't seen him that much, so I think Malzahn really likes him. It's not the normal prototypical running back at all that Malzahn uses, so I think it's a little bit different for him to have a little fast guy, but he is definitely a little fast guy.
Well, I think the big thing too with him is he's got hands, right? So it's not a guy that you're going to have to hand the ball off and try to go up the middle or run to the boundary and then try to cut up field. This is a guy that they can use as almost like a scat back, kind of true scat back, where you'll see him catch the ball more than coming out of the backfield, because we've got Bentavious and R.J. Harvey. And what we saw, especially with R.J. Harvey, remember, this guy was recruited by Virginia as a quarterback. Everybody else was recruiting him as a running back. He was a quarterback in high school, a running quarterback in high school. And then we brought him over, and he started in the backfield for us as a running back. And he had 3 TDs, including a catch for a TD. And he was just exciting to watch. I mean, he really showed the ability to be a bruising back. One of the things that the coaches had said, and RJ had talked about as well, was the fact that he was leaning into, before he was a little bit more hesitant with contact, and now he's trying to drive through the contact as part of that running back play. And that's really a big piece of being a running back for this offense. So he's a bigger guy. He's able to do that. He's got pretty good speed. And you saw him in a variety of different uses as a running back. As far as Richardson is concerned, he's a speedster, and it's even less. One of the cornerbacks actually caught him on that 70-yard play. It was like at the 5-yard line or something. So he's fast, but there's other guys that are faster. But really, what impresses me about him is his acceleration. So once he gets a step and a foot in the ground and he starts going, it's not necessarily about top end speed like it was with Adrian Killens or some of the other guys that we've had in the past. This guy can cut and accelerate quickly, and that'll get you some big yardage situations, even if you don't run out the entire defense.
Absolutely, yeah. Running backs looked great. Very excited to see what they can do, and then we've got guys coming in as well that we haven't seen. A couple of really exciting type of running backs that are coming in the summer for the fall. So I think the running, we've said a couple of times already that the running game in Gus Malzahn's system is going to be big and it's going to be exciting. So I can't wait to see those other guys, especially
30 to 40 carries a game. So he's going to rotate these guys in and out. These guys are going to get a chance for carries.
I still think that there's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, though.
He's had one, I think, the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So
I think one of them will be a 1,000-yard rusher. So looking forward to seeing that. Here's what Gus Malzahn had to say on the running backs.
Early on, I could tell our running backs were a little bit nervous, and we weren't patient, and we were running into the back of guys. But as the game went on, all the guys kind of slowed down. I think Johnny Richardson, had a really good day receiving and running, had some explosive runs, and RJ did a good job, and Tavius did a good job. I think Good had the touchdown, so it was good. We got good information with all 4 of those guys.
All right, and here's what he had to say on RJ Harvey.
He did a good job. He's still learning to play running back now. He was a quarterback, so every practice you can see him get a little more comfortable, and he was a little nervous or whatever early, and little hesitant, and then it kind of clicked in that second quarter. He just loosened up, started playing, and thought he did a good job.
All right, well, what about wide receivers? Wide receivers are a bit of a question this year because we don't have guys that we've had in the past, and anybody really being a standout except Ryan O'Keefe, I think. Kind of made his, said, hello, here I am, with the not only the double pass thing, but some of the other catches that he made during this game, I think set himself apart from the rest of it. And Dante Marks as well did a very good job.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that I saw was Dylan Gabriel definitely has some chemistry with Ryan O'Keefe. I mean, he found him all over the field in multiple different. So that's multiple plays in a row. I mean, like you said, Ryan O'Keefe threw it for 23 yards to Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, the next play, threw it right back to Ryan O'Keefe for 23 yards. It was kind of funny how that worked out. But at the end of the day, he really, really hands was not a problem. He was pretty solid in his route running, and just in general, I think he's starting to stake his name for what he can be. Kadeem Robinson was also someone who kind of stood out, and like you said, Dante Marks. He was running with the 2s again, but he played really, really well. He's got length. He's got some decent speed. He had good route running. He caught the ball well. So I think he earned himself, a few looks, not just from the fans, but also from the coaching staff, because he really seems to be coming into his own. We had that big transfer from Brandon Johnson from Tennessee. He was steady, and what was nice. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say at some point that he looks like a guy that you can send across the middle.
Yes.
And it's not going to bother him at all.
No.
He's that guy that'll take that hit if he has to across the middle in short yardage passing. That will just do it and not care about it. He looks the body
He's
type
solid.
and everything else that he will do that. I saw him. I remember certain plays I can literally close my eyes and see. And there was one in the not the end zone with the big scoreboard, but the other end zone, and he was. I think it was a reverse play or something, but he caught the ball on the other side of the field. It was a great play. And he actually came in front of the quarterback behind the line. So it was like a reverse throw thing, but he made a great catch in the corner, and it was good. So that's just the one that I remember for some reason.
Yeah, and he's a guy that all the guys have been talking about in spring leading up to the spring game, right? The coaches have said, and some of the other players, he said, the best route runner on the entire team. He looks NFL ready. He had a good first season, but then he had some injuries that he was dealing with. And to your point, he's caught some passes over the middle in the spring game. So having threats in the middle of the field that we can rely on, that especially when you're doing crossing routes or anything like that, having someone that's got good route running abilities and can lose receivers over the middle or defenders over the middle is going to be beneficial to us to open up that side of the field, because we really need it, whether it's the tight end or a wide receiver that's breaking.
Yeah, there's a lot of wide receivers. So obviously I don't think I saw all of them, but I know that's a situation where, we really need to work and see who's going to step up. So right now, Ryan O'Keefe is definitely the guy that stood out in this one, but there's plenty of room. There's also some other guys that are coming in the Summer A as well that will probably stand out as well. So,
Titus will be making his debut as well. He actually flew in from Hawaii for the spring game, which was nice to see. So he came in early. He was there. He was watching it, and he will be at least practicing later this summer.
Yeah. So, looking forward to having him. I think that'll be interesting to see where he fits in, not being here in the spring as one of those guys. But it's different this year because we've got so many guys that did come in the spring or in January, actually, these guys. So, most of the time you wouldn't be seeing nearly as many freshmen as we're seeing now. And with the Twitter names on the back of the jerseys, one thing that I did notice with that, I thought it was cool when I saw it, but I did notice that if you don't know the Twitter names of the guys or didn't have a numerical roster printed out, which I didn't, wish I would have, it was hard to tell
who they are.
Sometimes who they were if you didn't know who they were.
And some of them are not obvious.
Yeah, some of them have just weird, names
Nicknames
that they
whatever.
came up with when they were 16 and they started their freaking Twitter. You know what I'm saying? So, for me personally, that made it a little bit harder to pick people out as far as that goes. O-line. I believe the offensive line definitely looked a little bit better. They definitely did some shifting and stuff that they haven't been doing in the past as much. I don't think that you've seen even half of what they're going to do. I don't think you've seen even half of what this offense is going to do. He says 60% is installed. I guarantee you that they didn't use 60% of their plays in this spring game. They're just not going to do that. I think you're going to see a lot more from these guys. Here's what Gus Malzahn did have to say about the O-line.
The thing that stands out to me about our offensive line, we got some depth. And, Coach Hand, he mixed and matched guys. He moved guys, constantly throughout the scrimmage, and I think that'll be a strength of ours next year.
Depth is a big, big deal on the offensive line and the defensive line. So that is a good sign to me, especially with, the new Herb Hand, new offensive line coach, moving people around, trying to see who fits where, who plays well, where they're at. I mean, a lot of these guys can play most of the positions on the offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out, who the actual starters are in game one, and then, what the rotations are. And, if somebody maybe moves to a different position than we've usually seen them or whatever. But it seemed like they were getting what Coach Hand is actually teaching them and trying to get them to do. The movement was definitely different. I still think there's a lot more there, though, that they can do.
Well, you mentioned players being plugged and played on the O-line. I mean, Sam Jackson and Cole Schneider have been all over the place the last couple of years, plugging holes. So the good news is that they have some experience doing that. Brent Bell is also a new face that we saw moving around quite a bit. And he was pretty successful. He actually sat out last year because of COVID, but he came back and played, and he was all over the field. To your point, Andrew, though, watching him and seeing him, the line play with this new scheme, I was surprised at how well they did with levels. They did some stunting, they did some twists, they did some other things, which you saw some stunting and twists, but not nearly as much last year as this year. And you saw them create different levels in the offense, in the defensive backfield. So remember, a lot of what we were talking about that Gus likes to do is counters and sweeps and things like that. So being able to be nimble enough to learn that, because we didn't really do a lot of that last year, I was very impressed with them.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's got to be good compared to what they did last year. They did have some issues, obviously, with the whole jumping off sides thing. I don't think that you're going to see that. They did continue to use the clap thing to start the plays, which I like anyway. Makes it a little bit easier because you're not listening for guys to say different things and all that. So definitely did good with that. The defense, honestly, to me, I didn't notice them that much. You know what I'm saying? Nothing stood out as being bad. Things stood out as being good, obviously, but to me, in a spring game, especially if nothing stands out, because one of the first things we talked about, because of an Ask Knightline question, but it was enough that there was an Ask Knightline question about the special teams.
Right.
that stood out as being not good. Nothing on the defense stood out as being not good. So that makes me happy. I know that there's work to do there as far as that goes. Tremont Morris-Brash looked great, of course, and he does most of the time. It was great to see Kalia Davis back in there, not only, carrying the ball in the one play, but playing, defense like we missed all year from him last year. Cam Good, obviously, looked good as well in there. Secondary, I didn't really get to see a ton of it. I didn't focus on that. I was more focused on watching the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball, but there wasn't gaping holes that we saw at BYU. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it's our team playing against guys that they play against every day, but I just didn't see gaping holes.
Yeah, I mean, with regard to the D-line, I agree with you. And remember, folks, this D-line is not complete. So you'll see some movement when Big Cat comes in and a few of the other guys come in. And if you think about it, once those three guys are in there, we're going to have 3 Under Armour All-Americans on the defensive line. Now, think about that. That's never happened for us in the past, right? So I think Landon Woodson, he goes to a secondary role. I do think we'll have Big Cat on the edge. We've got Tremont Morris-Brash on the edge. Kalia Davis will be at defensive tackle. So we'll have a solid defensive line. And I think one of the things that we were missing last year, we were able to plug up the gaps for the running game, but we weren't really able to get a whole ton of pressure through the middle. And we got some edge pressure last year, but not really up the middle. So I think, since Tristan left in the Frost era, we really haven't had a solid line. Now, Tremont Morris-Brash, self-admittedly last year, he got a little heavy, and he was not athletic enough for what he needed to do. From what I've heard, he's talked to other teammates and made a pact with them to work on that. And that's why you're seeing him blossom again off the edge, because he's gotten back into football shape and is focusing on it because he knows that's a key to his success. Kalia Davis, same thing. He got a little bit heavy, and so now it's all about strength and conditioning to get them win, to make sure that they can do that over and over again. But I'm very, very happy. I think this will be a strength for us long term, which will be great because we played against a lot of larger offensive lines this year in the American. I mean, they're averaging 305, 315, somewhere around there, depending on the team. And we need those big bruisers to be able to do well. And for the defensive backs, I think they're learning. I mean, Devod Wilson obviously was someone we were expecting to do well. He's firmly entrenched in that safety position that Richie Grant left vacant. But other than that, I mean, you had a bunch of freshman guys last year that were trying to fill in. And interestingly, Jaden Francois did not dress for the spring game. I know that he was practicing. So I'm not sure what the situation is there with that. Remember, this was the guy who came in from Nebraska that had the challenge with his national letter of intent because he'd already signed it, but he didn't actually play. He hadn't even enrolled in, he didn't take classes, he didn't do any of that, and then he came to UCF. So
sat out an entire year.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with that, why he didn't play, but he can be a key piece. Remember, he was a 4-star cornerback. So I hope that he gets back into the mix soon. At least he was practicing. Corey Thornton continued to play well. We've heard a lot about Derek Gaines. Remember, he came on pretty strong there towards the end of last year, and it seems like he's continued that momentum and played well as a defensive back. He has really good size and seems to be picking things up pretty quickly. Dylan Lester had his challenges last year, but it seems like Gus Malzahn really seems to be picking up on him, and he seems to be putting some of that behind him. He played well in the spring game, although he's extremely young, so I'm not sold all the way on him yet, but he's going to have to prove me wrong. But overall, there were mistakes, but I feel like the D-line is going to make up for a lot of those issues.
Absolutely. All right, hey, we need to take a break here because we've been going way too long, and we'll come back and talk about the rest of the spring game action.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, continuing our spring game coverage and talking about what's going on there. We went through everything except the linebackers, I guess, and maybe we talked about special teams in the beginning, so we don't really have to rehash that again. Linebackers. Eric Gilliard obviously did pretty well. Tatum Bethune was the guy that stood out for me. I watch him a lot because he just stands out to me. I think he's one of our best players out there, and I think that this year is really when you're going to see him take off. He says that Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste is the guy, though.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was good to see Gilliard back out there because remember, he hadn't been playing in spring practice for, probably 5 or 6 practices. So seeing him get out there, remember, this is his 4th year playing for us, which is crazy to say or think about or whatever, and explains a lot of my gray hair. But that being said, it was good to see him back out there. Tatum Bethune, like you said, he's been knocking guys' heads off all spring practice. Played really, really well. He's kind of the enforcer for the linebacker group. And Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, he's been the guy that's been setting the edge for us, and that's going to be extremely important. What you saw against Cincinnati, for example, last year, is they would hit the edge, or they'd play an option where their running back would come off of the tackle and just run for XYZ number of yards every single time. So being able to set the edge and keeping the plays in front of us is extremely important, and it'll also give the defense time to get to the quarterback and be disruptive. So all of that being said, if we can hold quarterbacks and running backs within the box and make sure that they're not getting outside, and that's really where Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste will come into play. If we can do that successfully, I think we're going to have a lot better year this year than we did in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's hear what Gus Malzahn had to say about the defense. Very short clip.
Did good. They were flying around. Trav was pretty basic today. There wasn't a lot of exotic things and all that. Just played football, and that was by design too. But, I think our guys were flying around.
All right, well, we'll see the difference between them when we play actual football competition. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, the spring game is what it is, but you can only tell so much from a spring game.
Well, especially with Dylan being back there, I'm sure they dialed back the blitzing schemes. There weren't very many blitz packages that were installed at all, so I don't know how much of that is just the installation and wanting them to learn the base defense first and then starting to layer that in, or if it's just, hey, we've got Dylan Gabriel out there, we don't want to throw the full Mack truck to him.
All right. Well, like I said, when we see actual competition, it'll be nice to see, where all these guys stand. Hopefully they'll have things better. I cannot wait to see Big Cat be here.
Oh, dude.
I just can't wait.
I think he's going to run through the AC, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. I don't think if you haven't ever seen this guy play, please look him up. Go see what he does. You're going to see a lot of him this year, and it's going to be very, very exciting. That's going to be the thing that you're going to be watching on our defense a lot. I think everybody's going to be watching where he's at all times. He's the guy. It's weird with these spring games. I watched the offense so much during this game and not the defense, just, I guess, because I wanted to see, and my focus was on what Gus Malzahn has brought to us and what his offense was going to be like compared to what it was at Auburn. So, that's what I watched more than anything else. Normally, obviously, I'm a defensive guy. I like defense, but I just wanted to watch the offense. I wanted to watch the O-line, and I wanted to watch the quarterbacks, the receivers, the running backs, just to kind of see what was happening. So it was kind of a weird way of watching stuff this time for me.
Well, I agree.
It is what it is.
No, I agree with you on the offensive part of the ball, right? So we were expecting the most and the biggest changes out of the offensive side of the ball. Overall, I was left with the impression that this team's going to win some games, man. The way that we've got variety in our plays.
We're definitely going to win games.
No. But
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
No, I think we're going to win a lot of games. Yeah. And, I'm not going to say, hey, we're going to be undefeated or whatever. But I do feel like this team has shown me enough with what they've been able to, how they've been able to execute, and then more importantly, how they've come together as a team. And you've heard that all spring, and I really think that Gus Malzahn has successfully brought the team together. Even some parents were talking about that. And I think that can make the difference in between close games. I think one of the things with 2017 that we saw is everybody was hyping each other up when there was a bad situation. They said, hey, we'll pick you up on our side of the ball and carry you when we need to. And we didn't see that a lot. And I think that that attitude and that approach, little things like, hearing them say, oh, we you always hear this, we want 11 men to the ball and blah, 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 and whatever. But you're seeing guys continue to run. That's what you saw in 2017. If they make a bad play, they're still chasing the ball. They're not taking plays off. And that wasn't the case in the past. Now, how does that work long term over a full season when we're playing as many plays as we are? But I also think that sprinkling in the running game, I think we're going to see more of that, slowing the offense down a little bit, allowing them not to have as many 3-and-outs. I think that will help the defense, and I'm hoping long term that's going to be. I personally feel that's the difference between one or two plays that equate. And turn losses to wins, because even that 2017 team, there were a lot of close wins on that 2017 team.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, I was pleased with what I saw, of what I saw. There was nothing besides the special teams that really was glaring to me that needed to be worked on, which is always a good thing. So I'm satisfied with that, and we'll see what happens. I cannot wait till we play that first game
Boise
against
State.
Boise State. That'll be interesting. I would think that Gus understands what kind of a game that is for us. That's a big game in the G5 period. It's a game that people have wanted to see for a long time. A lot of comparisons between the programs. So I think that one will be quite exciting, and that's a great game to start the season off with.
Well, the other thing that'll be interesting for them is they're going to a new offense as well. So they're going to a hurry-up offense versus what they've had traditionally. And I've read Boise State actually released their stats from their spring game, and it looks like there's a definite quarterback battle going on. Hank Bachmeier, however you say it. I think it's Bachmeier.
Are you sure it's not Bachmeier?
Bachmeier. I don't know. Who cares? That guy, who is a highly touted recruit, 4-star quarterback, he had some issues last year, and it seems like he's continuing to have some of those accuracy issues. So it'll be really interesting to see. You've got an offense that has never played up-tempo offense that's going to an up-tempo offense against our defense. However, their defense was top 10 in sacks last year. So it'll be interesting to see, because according to their stats, they had like six sacks, I think, which I don't know if that says, hey, that's poor preparation by the offensive line, or they're not doing well with the new scheme, or if that says, hey, they're continuing that tradition because they're returning a lot of starters from last year's team. So it'll be really interesting to see that cat and mouse game play.
All right, let's take another break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about UCF Pro Day and what happened there, because the NFL Draft is the next big thing that's coming up. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong, spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Yeah. Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right, well, I said before we took that break, the next kind of big thing that's coming up is the NFL Draft, and we've got a few guys that will probably be picked in that. And we had a pro day, what was it, like a week or two ago now?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it on here because we haven't done a show for a while, so let's talk about it. Roger, what do you got?
All right, so I guess let's start by reviewing who actually participated in the pro day. So we had Otis Anderson, Neville Clark, Tay Gowan, Richie Grant, Jacob Harris, Greg McCrae, Trey Nixon, Aaron Robinson, Marlon Williams, and Dylan Barnes, although we didn't see very much on his unofficial results sheet. That being said, it was great to see that all of the NFL teams had representatives there. So these guys had great opportunities for exposure. I think there were some people that took advantage of that and either elevated themselves or reinforced that, you know, what the buzz was about them. And there were others that didn't. And it kind of surprised me, actually, kind of looking at the results for these pro days. Now, I was going off the unofficial results that UCF posted, but I was expecting a little bit more from some of our guys. So I think that there are some missed opportunities here, some folks who probably could have went from an undrafted free agent status to possibly a lower round draft pick. The biggest winner, I think, from all of these guys was Jacob Harris. I mean, we knew he was a freak athlete, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park on all the measurables.
Yeah, Ben and I talked about this on the Knightline at Night show that you weren't on last week. We talked a lot about all this stuff, and I don't remember everything that I said, so I'll probably completely repeat myself on a lot of this stuff. and I may not say some of the things that I said. I don't remember exactly what we said, but I do remember that we talked a lot about Jacob Harris. And his shuttle time was like one of the fastest, like in the last 5 years or something, by a receiver or something like that. I remember that was a really big deal. The only thing with him is, obviously, he does great in the 40 and all this other stuff, but catching the ball in games has been a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if he would have caught the ball as well as he performed at this pro day, he would be a first-round pick, I would think.
Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with his measurables, the guy's 6'5".
I know.
And, finding a 6'5", 219-pound receiver who can jump a 40.5-inch. Now think about this: 40.5-inch vertical, which was, I think, the number one in the entire combine out of everybody. Okay, if you can high point a ball at 6'5" and 40.5, nobody, and I mean nobody in the NFL level is going to be. No defensive back is going to be able to guard you. So,
but if he can catch it, that's the issue,
and that's it.
He could maybe high point it and touch it, but he's not going to catch it.
Yep, 11 foot 1 inches on the broad jump. I mean, 4.39. He was absolutely smoking the 40-yard dash. And other than another surprise for me, Aaron Robinson and his 4.38 40. That just blew my mind because I was expecting, Otis Anderson to come out and blow it out. I was expecting some of these other guys that we've seen, but 4.38 for Aaron Robinson and a 4.39 for a 6'5" guy on a 40-yard dash.
Yep.
That is ridiculous numbers.
And then when they watch his tape, it's going to be, why can't he catch the ball?
Well, I think
that they can help him with that in the NFL, which will be his saving grace. Because they've got to work on his hands. Maybe it's eye-hand coordination, something else. He's obviously a stellar athlete, but
well, he was a soccer player. He wasn't a football player. I mean, his history, remember, guys, his first Division I scholarship was with Florida Gulf Coast University for soccer. So, he's an athlete all in. And I do think what he's done successfully for himself, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a 5th-round pick or somewhere around there just based on his athleticism. Some GM's going to say, look at this guy's measurables. Let's take a shot at him. If he doesn't work out, the contract's not going to be a big hit, and usually they're not multi-year contracts when they get to that level. So let's take a shot at him. If anything, put him on the practice squad to develop him for a few years, but let's take a shot at him. I think he's played himself, quote unquote, into being drafted, whereas I think some of our other players this year have done just the opposite.
Yeah. It wasn't a good showing for a couple guys.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to move on with this. There were some surprises with guys that didn't perform well. Otis Anderson was one of them. Marlon Williams was definitely another one that didn't perform quite as well as we expected.
No.
I don't think. Marlon Williams has never been a really fast guy. He's been the guy that can catch the ball and do something with it, but not a total speedster.
Right.
There are times that he has flashed speed. I don't know. I mean, maybe something was going on with him. Maybe he injured himself training or whatever. But I was surprised by not being surprised at what he did.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
A 4.59 40 is not good
and for Otis. Even worse.
Yeah, I don't understand where that came from, but I don't know if you remember, but during this last season, we were kind of talking about Otis and making the observation that it felt like when we watched him, he didn't have the same burst or speed that he had in the past. And for me,
he could have an injury as well. And I thought that for a while. I mean, he took a beating in the role that he was given at UCF the last couple of years, running the ball, a lot. In the situation that he ran it in, up the middle a lot and all kinds of other stuff. So he's taken a beating in his college career for sure.
I remember early on when he and Adrian Killens would sit there and they would have top speed competitions and he was right there. Otis Anderson was always right there. And then all of a sudden you see a 4.63 40 and it's like, what the heck happened?
Everybody could have a bad day too. Maybe he had a bad day. It just was not the day to have a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Aaron Robinson reinforced why a lot of these draft analysts have been saying he's a top first round cornerback. I mean, he athletically, I've met him a few times. I've talked to him. He's a great guy. But you saw him play a role. He played a lot of nickel in our scheme, and so we didn't really, he wasn't that guy that jumped out at you. He had a great, I believe it was a sophomore year. Then he came back for his junior year, kind of took a step back. His senior year, he really showed out. So, draft analysts are absolutely in love with him. He certainly helped his case with a 4.38 40. As I said, Jacob Harris as well.
I haven't been looking at like mock drafts or anything yet. Where do they have him and Richie Grant?
So most people have Aaron Robinson as a first-round cornerback.
Really?
Yeah. So
for some reason, that's surprising to me. Maybe it's the role that he played here, like you were talking about.
Yeah, and I said this, I don't know if you remember a while back, but the big thing with him is being able to be versatile and play nickel.
Yeah.
In the NFL, that's a big part of the game,
Right.
and there's not a whole lot of people who can do it successfully.
Right.
So he can play nickel, he can play corner. Richie Grant, on the other hand, I think I did it on one of my hot takes. I said he would be the second safety to be taken. And it looks like the NFL draft analysts agree with me because they are also saying he will be either the first or second safety taken in the draft. So depending on how, what teams are looking for, he's either going to be a first or a very high second rounder. So it looks like we'll have two UCF players in either the first and second rounds in this year's draft, which is extremely exciting.
Yeah, Richie Grant's always been a guy that excited me, playing. I've always watched him, and I've always loved the way that he plays, so it doesn't surprise me at all for him. And I can't wait to see where he gets drafted. I hope it's a team that I don't hate.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Because I want to root for him, and I so I hope it's, I don't know, either Kansas City or one of the Florida teams or something, not Tampa Bay.
Well, let's do this. Why don't we run through, and I'm just going to say the name, and you tell me if you think they'll get drafted or not. So let's start with Otis Anderson.
No.
I agree, undrafted free agent. Maybe he gets picked up on a practice squad, but with that 4.6 40, I'm not sure.
I just think unfortunately, with the size and all that, I just don't think he gets drafted. Maybe he gets a practice squad thing or something like that, but I don't think that he gets drafted.
All right, the second participant we had was Neville Clark.
He's already been drafted. Is he eligible to be drafted again?
I don't know.
I mean, he wasn't drafted, so he signed as a free agent.
Right.
He wasn't really exciting in this pro day either.
Well, and he didn't really participate in all the drills either. I think it was only two.
Didn't run a 40 in the combine the first time. He was actually in the combine.
Yep.
I don't know. It's a very weird situation, and I've heard many different things. The reasons why it turned out the way that it did. I'm not going to go into it. I really thought that he would have an opportunity in the NFL. And I mean, this could be a political thing with him. I'm not sure. One of the stories that I've heard, it was an agent issue that really screwed him in the NFL. And I don't know if he can come back from that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's fair enough. Next on our list, we have Tay Gowan. I know we didn't talk much about him, but he measured in at 6 foot, 0.7, so right at 6, a little over 6 foot, almost 6'1", 186 pounds. He really didn't hurt himself, and he didn't help himself.
I don't think he gets drafted.
Yeah, I think the big problem with him was exposure. He had a challenge with a premature daughter, and he decided to step out. And instead of coming back and playing another year, unfortunately, he's been basically trying to brand himself. So I do think had he come back for another year, he would be in a much better position because I think he has the talent and he could be developed into someone who could have been drafted in the lower rounds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think he gets drafted either. Richie Grant, we kind of talked about him. What do you think there?
Well, obviously.
First or second round?
Well, it just depends. I don't know where they've been picking safeties recently, to be honest with you. So I don't know what the first or second safety means. If it's the first or second guy, I mean, I would assume that would be somewhere in the first round.
Yeah.
So that would be awesome if he gets picked that high. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would expect it. I would say, yeah, I mean, he definitely gets drafted. I just don't know where.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
I mean, anybody who gets him, though, is going to get a good guy.
Yeah, and I think he'll get a good enough contract that he'll have staying power, and they're gonna get him playing time because they're going to pay him enough that they're going to need to do that.
So. Yeah.
So the next one on the list is Jacob Harris. Now he's an interesting one.
He did great in this whole thing, but the catching the ball. And I didn't see the pro day part of him catching the ball when they threw him the ball. I didn't really see what he did as far as that goes. So he must have caught some of them. I mean, they didn't really show. I don't know if he caught all of them or whatever, but
no major drops reported.
He caught some of them. I mean, he caught some of them during the football season. He did good things with the ones that he caught, but he also dropped a lot of them. So I think with the showing that he had in the pro day, that he will get an opportunity. I don't think it's going to be high at all. I think it's going to be in the lower rounds, but I think he'll get an opportunity for sure.
I agree with you. I think someone's going to take a chance on him. I think it'll be somewhere around the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. So, we had talked about so far that we felt like there would be 3 folks drafted, and so if this is another one. You could potentially be looking at a draft with 4 UCF players drafted, which I don't believe has happened. I think the most we've gotten was 3, in our entire history. So that would be great.
I mean, we would think Aaron Robinson and Richie Grant.
Yep.
For sure. I think Greg McCrae, we haven't talked about him yet, and I know he's next on the list. I think he's going to get an opportunity, personally. I just feel like he's gonna do really well on their testing that they do as far as like the Wonderlic and all that stuff. I think he's gonna do really well on that. And I think that is where he's gonna prove himself as a smart guy and somebody's gonna take a chance on. So I think it's gonna be Aaron Robinson, Richie Grant, Jacob Harris because of what he did in the pro day, and I think Greg McCrae could really have an opportunity.
Yeah, I think Greg McCrae...
I don't know about the rest of them, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Greg McCrae, he's one of those guys that his strength was being patient when he was running, right? That was his big thing. I wish for his sake that he was just a tad bit bigger. If he was, I think he would definitely draft higher because he's a smart runner, and that's exactly what you need in the NFL. It's not about opening up a great hole. It's waiting for blocking schemes to develop. So that was the big thing on McCrae. I
haven't even looked at NFL.com yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting to be that time, and I probably should have been looking at it. I've just been so busy with other stuff that I haven't looked at it. Normally at this point, and with there not being a combine on the TV, I think that makes a big deal, a difference to me.
I agree.
Because I would have been watching that stuff. It's the draft is something that I've always liked and always watched, and it's usually the week of my birthday. So it's just kind of an automatic thing to kind of watch. So I don't know. We'll see. with a lot of this stuff. I need to look more into it, I guess, because it's coming.
Well, the next one on my list is Trey Nixon, so he's interesting. Here's the thing about Trey. He didn't really hurt himself. He didn't really help himself in this combine, right? I think the big thing that happened with Trey that really hurt him is this was going to be his breakout year, and then he got hurt very early on in the season. And he didn't really come back until the very, very end of it, which really didn't give him an opportunity to get back into the swing of things. So I'm not sure about Trey. I'm really hoping the best for him because he's a great person, and I'm rooting for him. The challenge he's going to have is he just doesn't have a whole lot of tape because he was kind of buried before that. He started making some noise the year before. Then he got this season. This was going to be his breakout season. He was going to be the number one receiver. He did great during the first part of the Georgia Tech game, and then all of a sudden he got injured, and it's just tough luck for him. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping the best for him. But he's another one of those guys that really didn't, stand out in the combine, which could have elevated his draft status, kind of like a pyramid. Marlon Williams, I don't even know if he'll be picked up as an undrafted free agent, which is crazy because he was the number one receiver for the entirety of college football this season.
I know.
I mean, when would you ever think that the number one receiver may not be drafted?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, it was partially out of necessity in the scheme that he turned out to be that guy, though, in a way. You know what I'm saying, as far as statistically?
Yeah.
So, that's, I don't know. He didn't help himself at all in the pro day thing. So.
Well, and he's always been, like you said, that tough guy that he can squeeze a ball. He's got good hands. He'll grab the ball. And his big thing is old George O'Leary used to say, it's all about the yak. So the yards after the catch. He would shed cornerbacks. He would make people miss. Didn't have blazing speed, but he was a tough-nosed football player that would run people over. So, I'm hoping the best for him. Especially maybe some of these GMs are looking at the numbers and they're like, look at these receiving yards. Look at his average yards per catch, because his average yards per catch were up there. He was leading in that category as well. Part of that is part of the scheme. Part of that is, hey, if you're catching those balls, you have to get some separation, or you have to have really, really good hands. So hopefully those guys are looking at the tape and when they're evaluating him, and he gets a shot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. So I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of good players that I think missed an opportunity on this pro day.
Well, this is a weird year because there's, again, for 2 years now, there's not been a combine. So I think it's crazy.
The one good thing is, again, this is the first year I think we've had all of the NFL teams at our pro day / combine, right? So, I mean, really the combine this year was held regionally. And so the guys that had the pro day would have access to all the scouts that would be at the combine typically, but not necessarily at the pro day. So you'd have like 9 or 10 scouts that'd be there on the pro day that were really interested in these guys, but they got exposure to everyone. So it was a bigger opportunity than they normally would have gotten at a pro day to begin with.
Yeah. I'm finally starting to find information on the draft on the NFL.com. I've been looking here for a while. It's even hard to find because they normally have like a combine thing or whatever. Let's see real quick here. I just want to see. They give Marlon Williams a 5.67. And what do they say? Strength, average, big body, hands, works around traffic. Do they say a spot where they think? Let's see. What do they say? I'm trying to read this as fast as I can. Probably shouldn't try to read stuff live on here. But so 5.67 is what they give him, and that makes it for him to be a priority free agent, is what in their
estimation.
In their estimation, yeah, and their grade. So,
well, that actually would be good because if you're going to fall that low, you get a choice of which team you're going to sign with. Whereas when you go in the 7th round, you've got a lower contract, but you can't make teams compete for you for a contract.
Richie Grant is listed as a 617, which that doesn't, developmental traits-based prospect is what they say on that. They don't even list him as a quality first-year starter. Aaron Robinson, where do they put him at? 6.3. That's interesting. And I don't know if this was before or after pro days that they did this. Obviously, Aaron Robinson, the highest grade here, so it'll be interesting for sure. Marlon Williams, Tay Gowan, they list as 5'6'7" as well. 6'30" Aaron Robinson, 6'17" for Richie Grant. Trey Nixon, they list as a 6.0. Yeah, and they've only got 5 guys on there. So Jacob Harris wasn't even in.
That's got to be pre-combine.
Yeah, Richie Grant wasn't in it. Yeah, so they list these guys as NFL draft prospects. So we shall see. It has to be. I would hope that it's above. I haven't really normally I would have looked at some mock drafts, but a lot of the mock drafts only have the first round. So I'll have to look into it more for next show and see. What else do we got?
Well, we're talking a little bit about that championship team UCF women's volleyball team that will be starting their journey in the NCAA tournament on the 14th. So that's exciting. So let's take a quick moment to recognize them. They finished out the conference undefeated and won the conference tournament. So they qualified, took the auto seed. This is their third American Athletic Conference championship in a row. So Coach Todd Dagenet also earned a Coach of the Year award from the AAC. So congratulations to him. It's well-deserved for him and the team. So we're excited for him. Their first game will be playing High Point in the first round of the tournament on April 14th at 3:30 p.m. There was a little bit of controversy going on because initially the first 2 rounds of the NCAA women's volleyball tournament were not going to have analysts. They were going to be put on the various streaming services by ESPN, but would not have analysts. That has changed. And actually, Todd Dagenet was actually a vocal leader for the practice facilities that the team was working on because there were some concerns about the padding on the flooring, and he actually led the charge there. So that got updated. So
so they're going to be on TV, or we're going to get to see it?
They are going to be on TV, and they will have analysts because before they were not going to have any analysts or any commentary whatsoever, which is kind of crazy when you think about an NCAA Division I championship of any kind. So, excited for the ladies. High Point will be a test. This is an undefeated, or I think they were 16-1 or 16-0 undefeated team in conference coming in to play us. So they're not going to be a pushover. So, the ladies have done a great job this year playing as they had last year. Remember, last year they lost to FSU in the tournament. I think it was the second round. If we do win against High Point, we will play the 7th ranked or 7th seeded Purdue Boilermakers. And, I have a lot of high hopes for this team because I think they're going to do really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I watched their American Championship game, the last day of the games on Sunday, and it was great. So
it wasn't even a challenge. Yeah. The championship game, they outclassed I believe it was Temple that they were playing. They completely outclassed them. So not only did they send the Cows packing this year and earn some I-4 points, Warren I-4 points, which, by the way, we're getting pretty close to win again for the 4th or 5th time in a row. Which the Cows have not ever won the Warren I-4, so it looks like we're going to continue that tradition, which is great news for us. And, but the women's volleyball team, they really are worth a watch. So if you can, I know it's kind of an odd time at 3:30 in the afternoon, but if you can, please give them a watch. They deserve your support.
Absolutely. All right, softball as well is doing pretty well, I believe, right?
Yeah, they had a tough series against Tulsa. Again, those Golden Hurricanes, I really wish we could just drop them out of the conference because for some reason, whenever we play at Tulsa, They're a tough out. So last time we spoke, they were about a 500 team, and I was expecting us to clean house. We won 1 out of the 4 games, so we lost 3 games against Tulsa, which really kind of took a little bit of the wind out of our sails as far as the rankings were concerned. However, they are still ranked number 24. They followed that up with a sweep of East Carolina, so they completely swept East Carolina, so congratulations to the ladies. Before today's game, they were third in conference, believe it or not, as well as the team has been doing all year at 8-3. The Cows were second at 8-2, and first place belonged to the Wichita State Shockers at 10-1. They will be playing the return game with Florida, who, remember, was number 5, and they defeated at home when they played here. After that, they'll be playing Wichita State, so it's a great opportunity for them to make some noise and kind of regain some momentum going into the conference. I will say this: both of those teams, both the Cows and Wichita State, have played significantly fewer games than what we have. We are 23-9 at the moment, so it should be 24-9. Excuse me.
They have a weird game coming up too. U.S. Women's National Team that they're playing April 20th, Tuesday at 5 at the UCF Softball Complex. That's pretty cool that they're playing.
It's a tune-up game, I guess.
Yeah, the women's national team between right before a series with Memphis.
So. Yeah, I think Coach Bear actually had some involvement with the U.S. national team in the past, so this may be a way of them helping them tune up for their run as well. So yeah, it's super cool if you can go and watch that game.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. All right, I believe that it's time for the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, Roger, go ahead. I don't have one this week.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm stuck here looking at draft stuff now. I've distracted myself completely, and I have no idea.
He's in the rabbit hole.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
He's falling fast, folks.
I've let you talk a lot there, and I have no idea where we're at.
Okay,
what day is it?
Sunday today, but you'll be hearing this tomorrow on Monday. That being said, it is time for the tastiest segment of the week, the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week, and I am I'm all about the football night since we're continuing on that theme, and I'm going to put a bold prediction out there and say that we will go 3-0 to start the season by defeating Boise State at home, Bethune-Cookman at home, and inducing the Surrender Cobra at Louisville. If you'll remember, we got to do that the last time we were there under the leadership of Blake Bortles and throwing to Jeff Godfrey. So that was super exciting. Listen, Boise, I kind of mentioned this earlier, is in the midst of switching up their entire offensive scheme. They're moving to a hurry-up offense, and I just think that we have less tweaks that we're doing. The defensive side of the ball obviously is something that's going to be interesting. Boise's not going to have any tape on us. We're with what Gus is doing, with it being the first game of the season. If the guys get together in the off season and gearing up for the full season, they get together and they really hammer this home. I just don't see Boise taking this game. They're going to be in front of a crowd of 45,000, hopefully, screaming fans, because I know I will be louder than I ever was, coming back and seeing the guys at home with a full packed stadium. I mean, they're not.
I hope that's the way that it is. I have my doubts. I hope that that's the way that it is.
If it is, I do not see them winning this game. I'm hoping for more noise penalty games. I mean, Cincinnati. I'm
going to agree with you as far as us beating them. I just don't think that the Mountain West is on the same level as the American. And I don't think Boise is on the same level as UCF. I just don't. So that's why I'm going to say that happens.
Okay. And as far as Louisville goes, I think
I don't know anything about Louisville.
Well, they haven't been their normal selves lately. They've just kind of been a middle-of-the-pack team. They lost one of their star running backs. I believe his name was Jadavian Hawkins.
Do you know who their coach is anymore? It was Charlie Strong. The last thing that I knew anything about Louisville.
I don't even
So,
know. But
I haven't paid attention to them at all.
They did make noise in the ACC for the past couple of years. They had a great running back that was local here from Florida that decided to go there, another smaller scat pack type. But I just don't see them making a lot of noise. So I expect our team, after what I've seen at the spring game, and again, I am a homer, but having seen how well they executed at least the basics of his offense and knowing that we've got another year under our belt on the defense with what should be a pretty stout defensive line, I expect us to go 3-0. And if we do, after playing Boise and playing Louisville, I think there's going to be some noise about the Knights this year, especially with the Gus Malzahn buzz. I was almost there.
They were 3-7 in conference last year, 4-7 overall.
Yeah.
So
you're talking about Louisville.
Yes. They won 0 games on the road.
Yep.
Which is pretty odd. So they're not what they used to be at all.
They aren't what we thought they were. No,
Yeah,
just
so
kidding.
hopefully they're still not.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll be easy pickings.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I honestly would expect us to be 3-0 heading into week 4 of the season, which should be plenty with the Gus bus to make enough noise nationally for us to get maybe a ranking.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We shall see. All right. Good. That was a good Tijuana hot take of the week. All right, next is news and notes. Hey, Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, the UCF football team held its annual Letterman's Golf event last week. Interestingly enough, Sean Beckton sponsored a hole.
Which is crazy. As you know, he went to Nebraska, so...
That's odd. But
Yeah.
he is an alumni, so... I mean, he's an alumni, so
Yep.
I can see that. There were some cool pictures, Gus Malzahn with Blake and a bunch of the other players, and they got to talk to Terry Mahajer and Gus Malzahn, which was really cool. So I'm glad that they did that, and I'm glad to see those UCF reaching out again to their alumni, which the last head coach basically
Didn't.
completely ignored. So that's good.
All right, next up, we've got the number 17 women's tennis completed the sweep of the Cows 7-0 and earned 3 more War on I-4 points for UCF. We could potentially win our 5th straight trophy this month.
I think it's pretty likely because they're quite a ways behind. All right, UCF was recently rated the number 24 loudest stadium in the country, the Bounce House. That's good. I mean, I think it's louder than that, but whatever.
Well, I will say this.
I mean, they're judging on, size and all that. I saw that article, and yeah, I think it's louder than that.
I think that it's a very tough place to play. And what else is cool about it is the way the stadium is made and the angles at which people are sitting. The noise actually goes in and doesn't come back out. It doesn't bounce back out. So it's louder than what it seems. And when the Cincinnati game, I remember playing BYU. I remember playing a bunch of these different games. That place is loud when everybody's up and moving.
So I've been in music and radio and all this for a really long time, and I have pretty sensitive ears. I've been an audio engineer for a long time. And I remember during that Cincinnati game, and then the other game that was as loud was the USF game 2017. I remember both of those games, my ears were actually like crackling from loudness, and that tells me that it was extremely loud in there. I kind of know the decibel level, that happens at for me. And I just remember getting like my ears getting distorted, which that's loud. That's really loud.
Yeah. And you sit a little bit lower than what I do. I sit up a little bit higher because I'm in the Cabana area on the second level. And so I'm not going to get it as bad as you do. You're on the first level. So I'm not. I'm in the second level. I'm the very first row of the second level, though. But I think I was in the Cabana for that Cincinnati game, and it was crazy in there. You were the lower Cabana, I think, right?
Yeah. There I was. But my actual seats are, where the parents sit?
Yeah.
I'm the first row behind the parents.
Which is where all the good info comes.
I think it is. What's that?
I said that's where all the good info comes from.
Well, I sit with Travis in the Cabana sometimes, but I actually like the seats up on the second level in that corner because I can see really good from there. I can see the entire field a little bit better being up higher. So I sit over there most of the time. But anyway, I just remember it being extremely loud, where my ears were actually, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but my ears were actually, making... Distorting, yeah. So... That's loud to me. Anyway, I think it's louder than 24, but whatever. Did you do your next one, or
nope.
Did we continue? Go ahead there.
All right. So next up, we've got UCF men's tennis is now a top 10 team and ranks as the number 9 team in the country. Last week, they swept the number 37 Cows for the regular series win. Seems like we've got a little bit of something of a consistency going here with beating the Cows and sweeping them this year.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing.
I think that we're well ahead, and we will be winning that trophy. I saw something about points like last
40
week
to 16 or something like that.
It's not even close. There's no way that they're going to win it. All right, Matt Comer, who was at UCF for 14 years as the associate AD of Major Gifts, has taken a job with Danny White at Tennessee. Whatever. I don't like it when this happens. I mean, yes, he did a great job at UCF, and he was here for a long time, but then money comes a-calling, and guys take off. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Good luck,
and
I
farewell.
Guess. Yeah, if you have to do that. Anyway, all right, this has been Knightline 254. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold, charge right.